Okay. Quite cheetah. It's originated. We had 3 cheetah of ours that were rewilded up in the northwest. When they were bought here, they were orphaned the mother actually broke out of the reserve, and she had her cubs outside. So we had no choice. We had to take the mother and the cubs back inside, but she never took the cubs. So those cubs were sent to De Wilt, where they were rewilded. They were brought back here to Nambiti when they had been rewilded, but they were too tame. We couldn't release these animals into the wild. So what they started off is with these 3 animals, 2 females and a male, and they started, obviously the females had cubs. There was also 2 females that were orphaned here at Nambiti as well. The hyena killed their mother and the cubs, and they were left behind, so they also ended up here. And obviously they were put into these little capture bomas that we have today, and people used to come here and visit, and they were touched and pets and everything. But what we decided to do is that these animals had to go back into the wild. So what we decided to do is to now start putting them through a rewilding process, where they went from some that were hand raised through different stages of isolation, where they've now taken away from that, they have no human interaction. And they moved from smaller to bigger to bigger to bigger bomas, until eventually they moved onto a 600 hectare property next door, where they actually hunt and survive by themselves. So yeah, what we'll do is I'll take you guys around and just show you some of the cheetah that we've got here, and then we'll go across to Elandsvlei and see cheetah that were tame, that were hand raised, that are now free roaming, hunting by themselves, and completely human dissociated from humans.
So a complete success story.
Yes, a great success story. Yeah.
And can you just tell me a little bit about how endangered are cheetah?
I think they're classified as critically endangered at the moment. So the biggest problem for cheetah at the moment is obviously lack of habitat. There's not enough habitat where they can roam. And obviously also genetics. Genetics is a big problem with cheetah. They come from a small gene pool. You only have cheetah from South Africa and cheetah from Namibia. And Namibia, they don't bring in cheetah into South Africa, so our genetic pool is very, very small. But obviously the land is a serious problem, that they don't have enough habitat for them to actually survive on. So, and they're also they're persecuted by farmers, because they target sheep and small cattle and stuff like that. So, and they're very difficult to keep in a closed environment. They do escape, and they do become a bit of a problem. So they're also very highly vulnerable to big predators, like especially lion and hyena and leopard. They do kill these when they do interact. So that's also another big problem for them, is dealing with in these closed systems with other predators.
So what do you predict for keeping the future for them? What is it? What's the
ideal? What we're planning to do, we've got 13 animals that are here, and we're planning to move all 13 to other reserves. So hopefully to reserves where there aren't too many predators, that they can now breed. We're doing a custodianship program, where we will say to a reserve, you can have these animals, but obviously there'll be a 50% progeny share. So those animals, 50% belongs to them, the other 50% belongs to us, and we can then move those animals, which are now classified as wild, to another reserve, and obviously just keep on going like that. So we can try with these 13 animals spread out as much cheetah as possible.
How many cubs do they have at once?
They can have 2 to 3 cubs normally in the wild. In an environment like this, where they not threatened by predators and they're cared for, they can have 4 cubs if sometimes. But normally in the wild they have 2 to 3, and maybe only 1 survives from that. They're not the best mothers. They do lose a lot of their cubs to a variety of different things. So that's also another factor is for them for their survival in Africa, is that they don't have a very good success rate with their cubs. A lot of them get predated and so forth.
Do the males leave the women to deal with it?
The females are completely solitary. The males only come to the females obviously when it's mating time, but the females, even males will sometimes live in coalitions of 2 to 3 males, but females are always by themselves. And they do roam a lot as well.
They do. And then how old are they when they leave the cubs, like properly, when it's okay
When they're
to leave?
weaned.
That's soon.
Yeah, they're normally at about a year old, year and a half, they'll leave their mother.
Got
Yeah.
it, all together.
Yeah, the biggest challenge to a young cheetah is obviously hunting by itself. So what it'll do is it'll predate on small animals, rodents, rabbits and so forth, and then progressively as its body size increases it will now start catching bigger and bigger animals. A fully grown male, if they're working together as a coalition of two, can take down a kudu cow by themselves. So they can be very successful, but when they're small like that, that's the critical stage where they can survive or they don't survive.